r/AskReddit. What are your worst roommate experiences? Okay. So, I had just broken up with someone and needed a new place to live. A friend of mine from college was tired of living in Missouri, and she and her girlfriend, who I had never met, wanted to come out to live in Seattle. The three of us decided to share an apartment. Because I already lived in the area, I found a great apartment in a city south of Seattle and paid the deposit with the written agreement that they would pay me back 2/3 of the deposit and we would split utilities 3 ways. So we get the apartment and I move in a week before they do, as they were driving from Missouri. Along the way they inform me they are bringing cats. This was not in the arrangement, but I roll with it and tell them they have to pay the pet rent and pet deposit on their own. They move and both have jobs. Come first month's rent they only pay half of what they should. They smoke weed constantly and leave pizza boxes on the floor in summer, leading to an ant infestation. They never do dishes. 4 MO that go by without them paying a single thing toward rent or utilities. Eventually one quits or loses her job and the other got cut way back on hours to the point of almost unemployment, but wouldn't look for more work. When I would remind them that rent or utilities were due, always in writing, they would respond that I needed to stop pressuring them about money because it was making them suicidal. Around this time my grandfather died and left me $5K. They reasoned that I could afford to support them. In actuality I could not. That money was supposed to be for a surgery I needed, and insurance did not cover at the time. All of that money was spent to keep is all from being homeless, including feeding them, because I'm a sucker apparently. It eventually got so bad that I told them they had 10 days to pay up or get out. Their response was that if I wanted the money I should sue them. I had absolutely everything in writing as to what they agreed to, all the missed payments for rent and utilities, etc. So I did. I filed a case in small claims court and had them served. A couple days later they moved out without paying and left most of their stuff there. The court date came and they no-showed. I had a stack of written correspondence almost 2 inches thick that I presented to the judge, and after he read through it, he was quite angry on my behalf. The judge ruled in my favor that they owed everything they agreed to pay and never did, plus 12% compounding interest until it was paid off. This was back in November 2014, and to this day neither has paid a dime. Pretty soon here I'm just going to sell the debt to a debt collector to at least recover some of that money, and the debt collector can try to get it from them. Oh yeah, and 60 days after they abandoned the lease on our apartment, the complex manager came to certify their abandonment. The day they left I closed their bedroom door and didn't go in until she came back to certify the abandonment, and she was like, do you know why there is poop in the closet? Hands down the worst roommates ever. I have several stories about one roommate. For the purposes of anonymity, I'll call him Fuckface. Fuckface was creepy as hell. Whenever I entered the room, he would always say my name with an extremely weird inflection and then giggle. As soon as Fuckface moved in with me and my other roommate, I'll call him Johnny. Johnny and I started getting mysterious text messages from anonymous numbers, usually posing as a woman propositioning us for sex. He would also do crank calls with a soundboard, same shit, asking us for sex. Fuckface often stole food from me. I eventually caught him after I bought some cookies and found a stack of them missing, even though I hadn't yet opened the package. Fuckface at one point got sick and puked in the kitchen sink. He then called me asking what to do. I'll clean it up. Like, WTF dude. Then I got home and found out he vomited in the sink again. How the fuck does someone do this twice? Hang out near the toilet when you're sick. FFS. Then I had to nag him to clean the sink after he was feeling better, and he did a half-ass job, and I had to clean chunks out myself. Fuckface and I shared a bathroom and Johnny got the other bathroom to himself. I decided to leave for the weekend and visit my parents. I saw the toilet paper was low, but I had already bought TP several times and decided Fuckface can handle it himself. I get back after the weekend, and at about 4 in the morning I get up to piss. I notice my bath towel now has brown streaks on it. I find him in the kitchen up at 4 AM and I confront him about it. He plays dumb and says he has no idea. I got home one day and found the words "Fatus" carved into the door of Johnny's truck with a key. This culminated in me and Johnny in fuckface's room confronting him. I tried to be diplomatic, but Johnny was yelling and about to beat the shit out of him. Maybe I should have let him. On move out day, fuckface decided to dump his trash into the back of Johnny's truck. We know it was him, since the trash had a bunch of papers and shit with fuckface's name on it. His parents arrived. We had decided to split the cleaning labor and assigned fuckface some work. Fuckface's mom ended up doing it for him. Hope you enjoyed the recounting of my adventures of living with fuckface. It was a trip, I'll say that much. I moved into a bachelor apartment with a girl that just turned 18. I was 23. I didn't know her well, but she seemed nice, and I felt bad for her because she didn't have a place to stay and was sleeping on the floor of some guy's apartment. Things started out fine, and we split the apartment down the middle for privacy. A few weeks and she asks if her mom can come stay with us for a week or two because she's in an unsafe environment, and I'm like, sure, okay. Well, 3 months later, and the mom is still there, and they fight constantly, smoke weed constantly, and the girl has her boyfriend spending the night all the time too. At this point it's getting too much to handle, and I'm getting sick, and then I get the news that my boyfriend passed away. I have no reason to stay in that city, so I talk to the apartment manager and the mom about signing the lease over to her, give them my keys and move out. Cut to a month later. I just get out of the hospital after a week's stay. I hadn't had my phone on me and had no access to the outside world. It was a psychiatric hospital as I had a breakdown because of my boyfriend's death. My mailbox on my phone was full and I had like 100 plus texts from the mom and girl. They accused me of breaking into the apartment and stealing their rent money while I was in the hospital. They claimed they had me on video in the lobby of the apartment, and they hired a fucking private detective who dusted for fingerprints and found my fingerprints all over the apartment, and they scrubbed all trace of me away. I asked them how they could afford a private dick when they couldn't afford rent, and they had no answer. They were absolutely insane, and I still am friends with the girl on Instagram, and she is still crazy. My junior year of college, I didn't want to live on campus, but left finding a room kinda late, so I ended up sharing a house with 2 random people I didn't know. There were 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a tiny kitchen, and a living room. I saw maybe a total of 15 times my whole year there, for reasons that will soon become clear. I had a male roommate, Joe, and a female roommate, M. M was mostly okay as a roommate, other than the near constant weed smoking with Joe in the living room. I don't smoke, not a fan of the smell, but I burned incense when they smoked. It was their house too. I'm not here to tell them not to smoke in their own house. Joe, on the other hand, was a train wreck of a human being. He liked to cook and was fairly decent at Chinese cuisine, but never cleaned up after himself. Constantly left rice/other food all over the stove, leftovers on bowls, and on plates all over the kitchen and living room, and his room too, I'm sure, but the one time I went in there the smell was overwhelming, so I avoided it the rest of the year. Dirty dishes crusted with food in the sink. This culminated in an extreme cockroach problem. Like, turn the kitchen light on and watch the countertops move. Over winter break he left a bowl of fried rice in the microwave, so the roaches moved in. I can now unfortunately testify that microwaving cockroaches doesn't kill them, but I'm pretty sure it does make them bigger and more aggressive. He also must have been very high when he left the cockroaches are offering in the microwave, because when he left to go home for winter break, he left the front door unlocked, and when Em returned from break she discovered that they had both been robbed. Her whole stash of weed, $400 cash, and her tattoo gun, and his gaming console, games, and weed were all gone. The kitchen, incidentally, wasn't a shade. I believe the carpet of cockroaches may have deterred the thief from the kitchen gadgets. I was spared because I had taken to locking my door to the rest of the house and leaving out the back door, which was in my room. and also because you had to get through the kitchen to get to my room, and the roaches must have growled at the thief and made him think twice about passing through. Joe also was an absolute animal in the bathroom. While the beard shavings coating the sink were kinda gross, the layer of vomit in the tub he refused to clean up for 2 weeks was disgusting. Over spring break, he was the last to leave, and before vacating the house, he vacated his bowels into the only toilet in the house, clogged it, and then graciously closed the lid, shut the bathroom door, and left, leaving his bowl wrecker to stew for 4 days before I got back and had to call the landlord to deal with the clog. The smell was foul, open trench, outhouse in summer, eye-wateringly horrible. When we finally moved out of that soon-to-be condemned house, Joe and his friends all got high in the living room and decided they were going to make decorations for the house they were moving into later that summer. Out came the paint, all over the carpet in Jackson Pollock-esque swirls, and splotches in 5 different colors. The trail carried out into the front porch, then onto the sidewalk from the house to the curb, then even handprints on the 100-year-old tree in the front yard, like some kind of drug-induced tribute to cave paintings. Our landlord was livid, and none of us got our security deposit back. And that's the story of how I became extremely withdrawn and depressed my junior year of college, leading to the worst academic year of my entire school career. I know I've shared about the super crazy one before, so we'll go with another one. It's memorable because this is exactly the petty shit that made me swear off roommates. There was a rotation on who would buy toilet paper. One person would buy 2 big packs of toilet paper, then the next, etc. Well, it's this girl's turn, and after using toilet paper other people bought all year, she decided she wasn't going to participate. It was almost the end of the year and she didn't want to buy any for others. So she went out and bought a 4-pack of toilet paper and would take a roll with her when she went to the bathroom for the rest of the year. Whenever I see a 4-pack I think of her, because there are very few scenarios in which someone's buying a 4-pack. And her other great moment involved laundry. We had one washer and dryer for a house full of girls. She put her washing on Friday afternoon and went out to happy hour. Someone else wanted to do laundry. She waited for the load to end and went looking for her. Found out she was at happy hour and probably not coming back right away. She waited at least an hour and then just moved her stuff to the dryer and started her wash. When that was done, she took out happy hour's laundry and nicely folded it in her basket and carried it up to her room before transferring her own load. That load was done and she was folding it in the living room while hanging out with 2 of us when happy hour came home. She went down to the basement and stormed up the stairs to confront us. She was screaming about touching her stuff while the girl who touched it was basically laughing at her. "'Cause how dare I finish your laundry and fold it for you?" Realizing she didn't have a leg to stand on, she stomps up the stairs towards her room, but stops halfway and turns on the other roommate. Without even looking up, that one tells her to fuck off. I'm choking on laughter and waiting to hear what atrocity I had committed, but she finished the climb and slammed the door after her. If people not touching her stuff was so important, she shouldn't have started a load before leaving for hours. This turned out way longer than I expected. I guess I still had some pent-up anger about our ex-roommate. Oh well. My boyfriend and I had decided to move out of his parents' extra bedroom and into our coworkers, we'll call him Roger, home. We got along well enough. It was a very short drive to get to work, and the home had enough space to not feel cramped. Over a year and a half we witnessed Roger drunkenly beating up the roommate that was leaving as we were moving in. Roger drunkenly eating all of our food out of the kitchen. He justified it by saying that we buy more snacky food that he couldn't have around, or he would eat it all, so he couldn't buy it, but had to eat us when drunk. Okay. Roger having his girlfriend move in also with her children. From that point on they would get drunk together every night and argue in common spaces in front of us/her kids, and didn't give a shit if anyone heard. Roger and his girlfriend separately complaining to me about the other person, but once they made up you better not mention anything about them fighting, because then you are the bad guy. Roger and his girlfriend never locking the front door, sometimes not even closing it overnight. Oh, and the few nights he didn't eat our food. After coming home from the bar, he got an Uber driver to get him fast food which I would find all over the house, like a trail of breadcrumbs tracking his movements throughout the night. But instead of breadcrumbs it's McDonald's wrappers and fries. We've moved out into our own place since. The door is always locked and the snacks are all ours. We let her move in after she was allegedly assaulted by her partner. The story was that she was supposed to start a job but couldn't because of how badly she was beaten. We found out later the whole thing was a lie, but that's another story. She stayed with us rent/bills free so that she could look for a job and save for first and last month's rent. She was on welfare at the time. She lived on our couch for 2 years. Never worked or even attempted to find work that whole time. All of her job searching was her on puff trying to hook herself a man. Occasionally she would get job interviews and need to borrow money for her hair and nails to be done. When she first moved in she would clean and cook in lieu of rent, but after a few months that stopped. She started bring random men back to the house, and when she was asked to stop because I had young kids living with me at the time she cried and said that she needed someone to talk to. She criticized me for coming home from work, eating dinner with the kids, and then going to bed instead of staying up drinking and hanging out with her. My water and hydro bills doubled while she was here. She would be in the bathroom for hours getting ready for dates and refused to let my children shower. She began to describe the living room, where the couch was, that she was supposed to occupy for a short time, as her room, and she would complain when my kids went in there to watch TV. She crashed her car and used mine for job hunting while I paid for all the gas, etc. I'll let this go on for so long because she had fabricated stories of horrific abuse by her partner and I felt bad for her. The final straw was when I was at work one day and my kids had missed the bus to come home. I called her and asked her if she could pick them up at their school 10 minutes away using my vehicle. I got a call from the school principal who was concerned that an intoxicated woman had arrived at the school screaming at my children for interrupting her bath and then chased them in the vehicle when they tried to walk away from her. I threw her out that night. Unexpectedly our third roommate moved out, so we needed someone for just a few months before the lease was up. So we found a girl off Craigslist who seemed fine when we first met her. When she moved in she didn't have a mattress, so she slept on the couch in the communal living room. We asked her to sleep in her own room, and she said she saw a mattress in the alley she could use. OMG no. So she found a free mattress in the nicer part of town listed on Craigslist and we helped her get it. She never put sheets on that used mattress that was on top of my car. She just slept straight on it. She had her own food, but kept eating ours and worse drinking all of my roommate's juice. My roommate was diabetic and always kept apple juice in the fridge in case her blood sugar dropped unexpectedly. We explained to this girl how she can't drink all the juice that wasn't hers, but she did it again. When it came to the food she said she couldn't remember which food was hers. I was like, it's what you bought on your shelf. One of the worst things she did was take one of our space heaters that was in the communal space and bring it into her room. I was looking for it when she was gone and opened her door. It was on her bed and left on. I don't know how that didn't immediately start a fire. She didn't really have money for rent, so she only stayed for 2 months. It was bizarre. She made weird yarn jewelry and gave us some for Christmas. I didn't save it. The other weird roommate I had years ago had a pet 11-foot python she slept with every night. She told me he stole people's souls and she helped him. Yeah, she didn't last long either. I've had at least 20 roommates in my life, so I had stories for days. I've lived alone the past few years. My ex broke up me years ago, and since I was living with him, I had to move out. I found the only place I could afford in my city, living with an older man and a young European girl on vacation. The day I moved in, he told me he was a nudist and I couldn't have people over. I didn't want any at this point, but E, doors closed, he opened. We only had one bathroom, so the rule was to leave the door unlocked if you were showering. since it would free up the toilet for anyone else there. Even the shower curtain was clear mayo, the cleanest shower curtain I have ever seen in my life. At a certain point, I realized that he would only sublet to young women who were on vacation, or who had just gotten out of a relationship, which meant that there were always young beautiful foreign tourists coming in and out of his door, or people like me who just needed some place to get their shit together. They didn't want to go back to their parents' place. He later confirmed this to me and said he had slept with every one of his roommates. This part I don't believe, but he definitely hit on all of them. I guess what was really weird is that he was such a cool guy, but this was just so fucking creepy and weird. He wasn't even really the worst person I've lived with, if you include family and the time I just lived with a couple who fought non-stop, but this was just so bizarre to me. Like, I can't imagine being 50 and constantly rotating through strange roommates who didn't speak the language, paid in cash, stole from each other, and were basically helpless due to being broke/emotionally broken/too young to know better, even if it was only for 3 months. Even if they were cute, I just can't imagine. Oh, this is a long one, lol. Sorry for any errors. Currently on mobile in the subway. I had a best friend and roommate who had known as an acquaintance. He was always eccentric and really overly a nice guy. He had a problem with glorifying mental illness and drinking/drug use, and was kinda obsessed with these things, but didn't indulge that much. He firmly told me he was gay and couldn't come out to his family. I felt bad for him. Was a very supportive person. We grew semi-close. There were tons of times that started adding up when he would make me uncomfortable, like I'd be getting ready for work and he wouldn't stop trying to talk with me in my room while I'm changing. Just after showering, he would always walk near the bathroom when I was peeing. I thought, oh, I'm just being paranoid. He started treating me like a mom almost at times, expecting dinner to be made by me, or else he wouldn't eat. Then he'd just sit there sighing in my living room. It was constant negativity. He continually complained about not having money. Even though he worked a government postman job, he was filthy, and I clean a lot. I went away for 1 week, and the bathroom was literally so disgusting I vomited while cleaning. During the 2 months we were living together, I started receiving weird messages on my email and Instagram that were very personal and really creeped me out. His mental health started declining rapidly, and it was really affecting me. He didn't shower for a whole month. His road rage was scary. I refused for him to drive me to get groceries. He would swear insane things at pedestrians. His insults were getting weirdly specific. Hated women and racially charged. Anytime I tried to bring up my problems with him, he would just say basically, I'm your gay best friend and I have drug problems. How could you think I'm a bad person? And he'd flip it on me. One morning I woke up to a particularly insanely detailed and lengthy email that was a disturbing tale of a fake woman's love for me and had quotes from the conversation he and I had the night before. It also said just really creepy things, like I love to watch you cry. It fucked me up. I didn't think it was him at first. I was in denial someone so close to me could be manipulating me and sending me threats from fake accounts online. It was like split personalities. When I confronted him, I'm not even sure how to describe it. This guy went into a full-blown psychosis. He denied everything, got extremely violent in the space, including picking up furniture. It was frightening. I kicked him out. I was afraid of him hurting me, and he was clearly in love with me but in denial. I found his diary later that day in which he described skinning me among other terrifying things. The sad part is he was a bit aware that he had really cracked. Part of me hopes he got help, because I was genuinely afraid for a long time he would try and hurt me, himself or another random person. I spoke with his mom later that day. He had told her we were dating. When I started to prod a bit about his mental illnesses and how I think he needs serious help, she told me he's been in therapy since he was a kid for being a sociopath. And she was surprised he hadn't told me. Ugh, thinking about that situation again makes my skin crawl. I needed cash, and a friend of a few years needed a place to stay after a breakup. We signed a lease. He moved into the spare room. Within a week, the room was trashed. He left his shit everywhere around the apartment. There were coffee stains on the counter because he never wiped up after himself. The carpet in the living room had newt stains. I had bought 4 loaves of bread and put them in the freezer. That would have lasted me 2 months. I came home to find him eating an entire loaf of bread just on its own, shoving 3 pieces in at a time into his mouth. Gross. I found out the hard way he was a coke addict. I had a no smoking rule in the apartment. One day while cleaning, I raised my hand to pick up what I thought was an empty pop can. It was where he stored his cigarette butts and I wound up with ash all over the floor. He was also a hoarder. Left black boot stains on the fucking wall. Left these coins under the couch, which I later realized they were the kind you collect at those sex stores. I didn't even want to know. I warned him multiple times if he didn't get his act together. He was late on rent the first month that I would have tabooed him. I told him keeping his room clean was part of the deal. 2 months in, I finally went into his room and was appalled at what I found. I cleaned it up as best as I could and left an eviction notice on his bedroom door. He had 48 hours to find a new place to live since he was late on the rent again. He moved out. A week later, knock on my door. It's a detective in plain clothing looking for him. He had skipped out on his car payments that was under his dad's name. He basically hit rock bottom and screwed over literally everyone who tried to help him out. I swore from that day forward, nope, no more roommates. My roommate last year was great after I moved in with her. Escaped from another terrible roommate until she got a boyfriend the second semester. Her boyfriend lived a few hours away, but they called each other every single day. I kid you not, from the first day the semester started to the last, she didn't go one day without talking to him. I didn't mind at first because fuck it, she's happy and giddy and in love. And then it started to affect my studies and sleep because she would talk to this guy for hours and hours and on end. Sometimes on speakerphone. I don't know about you, but it's really hard to try to read a biology textbook when your roommate is blibber blabbering 2 feet away from you. Even worse, it affected her studies too, but she would lie about the kind of grades she was getting among other things. She would go see him a lot on weekends and he would stay in our room a lot too. Again, didn't mind it at first until it became regular. He even stayed with us for a week one time, which was honestly one of the worst weeks of my life. She would FaceTime him at dinner while I'd be there. She FaceTimed him at a concert, and she even kept calling him when we were at a party. They were so fucking clingy. It eventually imploded because I made it clear I was sick of the phone calls while I was studying or sleeping, and that didn't sit well with her, and we went the last 5 days of the semester without talking and haven't talked since. She wrote me a letter back in May about how hurt she was and basically accused me of everything and put no blame on herself for not respecting roommate boundaries. Also on top of that, I caught her in one lie one time and didn't trust her after that. I found out about a lot of other lies she's told, and I know that since our fight she's been lying to people about me. Also, it should have been a red flag that I was her 3rd roommate. Her first roommate moved out because she had her boyfriend, a different one at that time, over for the weekend, and the roommate woke up at 2 AM to them having sex. Luckily I have a much better roomie this semester. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.